Okay, so yes, this is being recorded and will be uploaded to YouTube. And yeah, Todd.
All right, so I'm going to paste in the triage for now timing link here into the window. I'm not echoing, am I?
No, all good.
Okay, good. I have two computers. So the first issue is going to be issue 115. Looks like it was opened 6 days ago by Boris. If folks expect to look at it. Definition of back-forward navigation type does not make sense. Have you looked at this yet, Ilya?
I have not, no.
Okay.
Just FYI, this is something that Boris and I both put in he put in sort of at my instigation, or not instigation necessarily, but we were working on our implementation of this. And so I'd like to think that I understood what he meant by it, but I may not exactly. So, I'm happy to help provide context, but I think that he probably captured it best, if not succinctly, in his messages.
And so it looks like he spelled out the issue quite clearly to me.
Yeah, so basically the problem is that the back forward says this is true, this is the navigation type whenever you go through a history traversal, but as it turns out, every navigation will go through traverse the history in the spec. And so one of the things that we noted was it's possible that the definition meant traverse the history through a delta. But I think that that's not the only issue, obviously, here that he's pointed out.
So I guess the core question, Ilya, is going to be, is this a thing we should get done in the L2 of navigation timing?
Yeah, I was just about to ask the same question. So, Will, when you said you guys were working on the implementation, should I interpret that as current implementation in Firefox, so at level 2?
Yes, this is now. So basically what we have implemented now in Firefox and landed is an implementation of this where we basically are saying traverse the history by a delta. We'll set it to navigation timing 2. But this is still an issue,
right,
in general. So yes, we are looking at this as what we are attempting to figure out for our current implementation.
Yeah, okay. So it sounds like, and Todd, you already marked it, so it sounds like we should treat it as level 2 blocker.
And then I guess the next question is, Ilya, I think you're currently the active editor on this spec. Are you the right person to assign this to, or is somebody else taking the active work right now on this spec?
Good question. I could, unless Yoav speaks up, I could try and triage this.
Yeah, I can also, we can figure out, yeah.
Okay.
We'll take it, but yeah.
All right, so I'm going to do the really nasty thing now, and I'll tag both of you as the assignees, and is that fair?
Sounds good.
You can fight. All right. And then the other issue on this guy is issue 114, which is also from Boris regarding performance navigation timing type. And
yep, and this is also, again, spurs from our not spurs, but is based on our questions about implementation.
Okay. And this is about back history traversal, if I read through the details correctly.
Right. So we're a lot of the same issues here. So this is with respect to the BF cache.
So does this seem like it needs the same treatment, Ilya, Yoav?
Yes, I need to read through it. I've not had a chance, but it sounds like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the context for this is we have Firefox implements the back forward cache, and so which operates in the way that the back forward cache sort of it can be specified in the standards. And so one of the things that we want to do is make sure that we're giving the right value back for navigation timing specs when we're retrieving a page for the back forward cache.
That makes sense. Well, do you guys have web platform tests for these things that we should be putting in?
So what's interesting is we looked at that because I put in a test specifically to test our implementation of this, and I put it in our in our browser specific stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But Boris pointed out, oh well, why don't we have why isn't this a web platform test? And I thought, well, that's odd because we're passing the web platform tests and had this bug. So, what gives? And it turns out the web platform tests do test for this behavior, but they all have on-unload methods defined, which invalidate the BF cache. So there's a couple of options there, I think, one of which is to duplicate those tests without the BF cache disable functionality, or make the current tests subject to the back forward cache. But I think either way, we should probably have a test for it.
Yeah. I believe that there's an in-progress BF cache implementation for Chromium as well. So it would be super interesting to have that behavior WPT tested. I think both with and without the BF cache.
Yep.
So.
And I suspect, Ryosuke, that I suspect you're interested in this test as well the moment it shows up, aren't you?
Well, I mean, we do have back forward cache, so I think it. I mean, I guess the main concern is the spec should match our current implementation. Because
or that the current implementation should match. I'm sorry, that the current implementations should match the spec, right? Not the other way around.
Right. So we're in a spot right now.
I mean, we're not going to change our implementation, right? I mean, changing our implementation will probably result in a bunch of compatibility issues. So, like, it's that the spec should match the implementation.
But what about? But that's with respect to Chrome, right?
Well, I think that maybe the first thing is we don't actually know what the behavior is, so we should figure that out.
And perhaps both Firefox and Safari have identical behavior, and if so, this is a non-essential conversation. Is it possible for you to take the action of getting these tests, getting a PR created for these tests?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to.
So I just added a comment to this issue to tag you.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Todd.
Yeah, thanks, Will. All right, so that's the two issues on nav timing and the triage of them. Then from there, I think nav timing is, there's a number of open issues on L2 that are currently both assigned to you, Yoav, and they're both pertaining to worker start. Do we have any need to review those?
I think it's just work. So there are WPTs to be written, and not much more than that. It's just work that needs to be done.
Okay. And actually, they're not assigned to anyone right now. Sorry, I misspoke. They were opened by you. All right. So do we need those assigned to somebody for action so that nav timing can be unblocked to ship?
Yeah, I can take them on.
I believe, wasn't Fabrice actually working on this, Todd?
It's a great question. I don't have good enough memory to remember who was working on them.
I remember at the face-to-face, the second, the hack day, I think Fabrice was working with them, but I don't remember. Sorry,
no.
no.
Started working on them, but I don't know how far he'd gotten.
Yep. So he was trying to create a test for these, and I think he kept running into issues due to browser compatibility issues as he was creating the test. And so I don't know that he shared the output of it. So feel free to follow up with Noam. If he has some work to share, please reuse.
Yeah.
All right. So other than that, there's 4 issues open on nav timing 2. And if we get those closed, my understanding is that nav timing 2 is ready to publish. So that's great. So the next spec we'll move on to. Resource timing. So let me grab this link URL and paste it in over here. For anyone who needs it. And so these are the open L2 issues. So resource timing 2 is getting very, very close to being published. And so the first issue is 198, which is about registering tau as a permanent message header field name.
Yeah, that's just a placeholder for like we're ready to publish. We need to move the status of the headers from experimental to permanent.
Okay.
So that's just a placeholder.
It's a reminder so that when we publish, we do the work.
Exactly.
Sounds good. And then issue 200.
Yeah, so issue 200 is about like we agreed last TPAC that we will not expose sub-resource of no cores cross-origin style sheets. So the entries for those sub-resources will never make it into resource timing. It's not well defined what happens with the sub-resources of those sub-resources. So if I have a no cores style sheet that is fetched from across origin, and that style sheet is importing another style sheet, which is then loading an image, we probably want to define that this entire chain never exists, like, is scrubbed from resource timing. And right now it's not well defined. So this is an issue that Nicholas raised while trying to implement that bit on the Chromium side of things. And we need to we need to properly define it before implementing, add tests to that, and see if the current implementations are passing those tests. I believe that right now only Safari passes the tests which are less rigorous than that. So it will probably require at least some changes once we will define it. In Firefox and maybe Safari.
And when you say in Firefox and maybe Safari, and Chrome as well, correct?
Chrome doesn't, Chrome will need to implement whatever it is that we wind up with, and yes. Like right now, this is not implemented at all.
Oh, I see. Firefox and Safari are closest to the eventual spec.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, and this is currently marked as an L2 publish blocker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So does it need an assignee?
I can take on that work.
Okay.
Um,
Because it sounds like there's both test and spec language.
it's yes. And the spec language runs a risk of being hand wavy because this will be properly defined once we are actually, based off of fetch. But yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, y'all. I just added some quick commentary to the issue to note that.
Okay, cool.
And then the last issue is 207, opened by Ilya on April 23rd.
207. Yeah, that is something that I basically have multiple patches in different places that contain tests, spec language, as well as not the implementation, but close enough. I just need to wrap all these together and into, something that is shippable. So yeah, this is already assigned to me. I see. And okay, you just
I'm very actively editing as we speak. Sorry, y'all.
sure. This is
Also,
work that I need to.
If there's tests that are landing, but do we need to clarify the spec as well for this one?
Yeah. We need to change the tests as well as we need to change the spec as well as tests. And the implementations, we had agreement that last time we discussed this, which was April 23rd, probably. We agreed that implementations will align on that behavior.
Okay, great.
All right. Thanks, y'all. And I think with that, if all assigned issues are addressed, we will then be able to publish resource timing 2, which would be great. Next up on the agenda, request idle callback. Ryosuke.
Yep.
I expect that this issue is going to require your conversation. If I understand correctly, there are 3 open issues right now. Let me paste this in over here. So the active one is the deadline and start of idle, issue number 71.
Right.
What you guys were working hard on at the hackathon.
Yeah, so I think
Sorry, go ahead, Risk.
What we probably need to do is that there's a user interaction task. I commented earlier, there's a in HTML Spectre generic task sources. There are 4 of them. One is the DOM manipulation task force, another one's user interaction task force, another one's network task force, and the last one is history traversal task force, task source. So I think what we probably have to do is for each, basically you probably have to tie the deadline to the concept. Basically, the text could say something like, if there was new tasks scheduled in these task sources, then deadline is set to 0. Or deadline is reached, or something like that. Does that make sense?
I think the words you're using make sense to me. Right now, the issue is assigned to y'all. And so I want to make sure
I'm happy. So I self-assigned it because no one else did. But if someone is like, I don't feel particularly attached to this issue. So if someone else is interested, I'm happy to give up that work. I think, like, as far as I remember, I think it makes general sense, but yeah, I'll need to dive back into the details. But I think that it's like, it seems like a good way forward, unless I figure out why it isn't. But
Ryosuke, I'm asking selfishly, but you are the person with the most detailed information here. Do you happen to have time to make a PR edit for this?
Well, I think regardless of who makes PR or not, I think the one thing we need to do is somebody who has already implemented this API to see if what's being proposed makes sense or not, right? Like, I think before writing, changing the spec, we need to make sure that whatever spec change we make is actually compatible with existing implementations. Otherwise, who knows? Like, spec change wouldn't make sense.
yeah, so there's a PR on 78.
Yeah.
I can try to craft something along the line, like craft the language that Ryosuke proposed here, see if it fits into the current PR, and get the people who implemented request idle callback in Chrome, which is Ross, who's also on the issue, get them to, give this a thumbs up from our perspective. I don't know if Firefox, like, who would be the right Mozilla person to do the same?
Well,
Yeah, I was shaking my head. Sorry, I just messaged Benjamin and asked him the same, like, who do we think would do this? But honestly, I don't know. So we could take an action to figure out who would be responsible for that and make sure that we do this, because I think Ryosuke's approach is a very good one. Like, we need to make sure it makes sense to the implementers.
Okay. So you took the action item to coordinate this?
Yeah.
I mean, for evaluation purposes, we don't even need, like, the spec PR, right? We just need sketch on how this works out.
We need notes in the issue comments from the implementers saying, we think this is a good approach. Is that what you're saying, Ryosuke?
Yeah, I mean, basically, we just need to agree this task source things make sense, right? Like, I mean, I guess we also have to add some sort of exception for the UA originating tasks, so the browser has some leniency, but
yeah, and for what it's worth, Ross has commented on that issue, and I think he's generally positive, but yeah, I'll verify.
Yeah. And that is the last blocking issue on having L1 request auto callback fully complete right now. So if we can get that closed out, it's good to publish or to republish. I actually don't know what state it's in. I think it's yeah. All right. Next, that's request auto callback. HR time. What time are we at? We're about halfway through. So HR time currently has 2 open issues, neither of which are currently assigned to a milestone. And so the first issue is number 79. Let me paste the triage over here.
So that one is not an issue. Well, it is an issue, but the intent of this thread is to track the ongoing discussions around various mitigations and related discussions around sub-millisecond resolution time.
Yep.
So I don't think there's anything to resolve here. It's more to acknowledge that this remains an open area of research, and it's useful to have a place where I think people can link to.
Yeah, so not a blocker. I don't know if this is L3. This is like, maybe this needs another milestone that says this doesn't need a milestone. But this is, yeah, not a blocker for L2.
Fair. Then the other issue is issue 81, time origin event timestamps across iframes.
Yeah, this is brand new.
I'm closing that right now. I think this is just a Safari, like WebKit bug. So.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh. I will close in the next few minutes and it'll be gone.
Great. Thanks, Ryosuke. It's a Safari bug report in GitHub W3C issue.
Right. I mean, this happens every now and then. People find a bug. Hey, the Chrome does this differently. Hey, Firefox does this differently.
Yeah, maybe the issue here is that we don't have a web page test that says we should be like one way or the other, but maybe we do, and Safari fails it. Let's see.
That's a good point.
Yeah, one thing we should make sure is we have a test for that. But I mean, if we don't have a test for that, the task is probably like better to have an issue in WPT, not here, right?
Yeah. Anyway, there are a bunch of tests where Safari is failing and the other browsers are not. So maybe this is a progression of one of them. Let's say, like, Ryosuke, let's make sure that if this turns up to be something that is not WPT tested, such a test will be added as part of the fix. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, if I'm fixing this, I would add a test, right? So awesome. At that point, it would be, and I'll probably just fire WPT issue to just to keep track of this, and I'll reference that here.
Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Great. And so I think HR Time we already did publish. This is just an open issue that came in. So HR Time's in great shape. And so we've just cruised through the bottom of the agenda just on open specs. And we've got 25 minutes left. So do you want to crack another spec, Yoav? I know you mentioned long task and paint timing.
Could we look at page visibility?
Yeah, let's go, because that's me. And let's do that next, because and there's new ones too. Let me give you the query. There it is for the folks on the call. And so if we start with the earliest issue, number 29, we can see that's an L3. We've already pushed it. Issues number 34 and 41, are currently assigned to me. And I believe I have a PR open on both of them that are waiting merge fixes. And I just have to go back and fix them. I'm actually on vacation for the next 6 days, and I'm working from the plains, so I don't have to take vacation days. So let me see what I can do to get those 2 issues completed while on a plane.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Who needs to review these?
Let's see. Visibility state should say what level of browsing context was opened by. Jeffrey Yaskin, who is sorry, I'm trying to figure out what company he works for.
Jeffrey would be Google.
Google. Is he the right contact to review that one?
I guess I can follow up with Jeffrey. Yeah. So if, once are both PRs blocked on?
They're both blocked on merge, conflict resolution, and review.
Okay. So maybe once you update them, I can ping folks on this end, and hopefully we can unblock and land this.
Yeah, and get them both landed. That sounds great. I'll ping you, Ilya, after I got them both resolved.
Sounds great. Thanks, Todd.
Yeah, and then sorry, I lost my window. And there's two new issues, it looks like. So issue number 48, well, not new. Issue 48 is currently assigned to Yoav for remove pre-rendered test from the test suite.
Yeah, so that's just busy work. Yeah, that's easy. I'll do that. Yeah.
And then there's a new test, new issue, which is number 51, from Marcos about dependencies we have on the HTML spec from the spec.
Yeah, that are not being exported. And I think the action item here is to open the equivalent HTML spec issue and then close this one, because it's just that the HTML spec needs to export these concepts and then we're good. So it's a bug on them, not on us. But.
Agreed. And if our spec has an error, even after we've opened those issues, are we okay with our spec having an error? Or do we want to work around the lack of a proper reference by using
I don't object to keeping this open until we'll fix the reference, but it's just like it's HTML spec work. It's not page visibility work. So maybe we want to keep it to track the fact that we still have issues, but the work needs to happen elsewhere.
Okay, I think that makes sense. So let me grab this one because I've been the guy on page visibility and track what I'm actually going to do. Todd writes spec, please ensure that HTML spec issues are open for these references. Okay, so that's it for page visibility. If we get these 1, 2, 3, 4 issues complete, all L2, oh, these last two we don't have as L2 blockers, the remove pre-render and the unexpected HTML. My expectation is those are L2 blockers. Does that match your expectation, y'all?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I flipped those. And then at that point, we should be good to publish, to update our publish of page visibility.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So page visibility is looking close. So we are at 20 minutes. Which one's next? Let's keep going.
Long tasks is one that we haven't looked at in a long while.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I don't know. Tim?
Yeah, I'm here. Nicholas is out of office, though.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're the closest to that work. So yeah, we'll see if it's, yeah.
Okay, so we should look at long tasks, but it may be that this is Nicholas's work.
Yeah, just taking a look now.
All right, I don't remember the URL off the top of my head, so I'm still rushing to find it. There it is. So it's a mix of L1 blockers and non-triage issues. So why don't we start with the non, oh wow, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 untriaged issues right now. We'll give you a moment to kind of glance through them. Then.
So is our goal here to sort of skim through them and state which of these should be L1 blockers?
Mhm.
That's the goal, yeah. I just wanted to ensure that you were comfortable discussing them before we went down this path. If you said, nope, we need Nicholas, then...
I think if we wanted to discuss at all what the resolution would be, having Nicholas around would certainly be good. I think with this group, we'd be able to state whether or not they should be L1 blockers.
Okay. Well, why don't we start getting these things triaged then into buckets, because we've got Riosuke and Will as well, so...
Yep. The first one, multiple context, doesn't seem useful. I think some resolution to this is an L1 blocker.
Okay.
We had some conversation in the face-to-face, but I think some of it is just that the terminology is not sufficiently clear, but there is some change required there.
And do we know who the assignee would be for this?
Nicholas isn't here.
That's why I cautiously asked the question.
Yeah.
We can wait until Nicholas is on the call if we're not comfortable assigning to him.
Yeah, you know what? That probably is a better idea. Sorry.
Okay. So then I think the next issue is number 66, which is container information should be hidden if the container appeared in cross-origin frames from Riosuke and Judith.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Issue number 66 that you opened on June 12th, Riosuke. Container information should be hidden if container appeared in cross-origin frames. That sounds like an L1 blocker from my perspective from the text.
I agree.
Issue number 64. Container source could be long URI that you opened them.
64.
Yeah, I'm trying to. There was some discussion here, just catching up on it. I think either we should. Well, I'm not sure on this one. One option would be ignore this, and then if it proves to be a problem in the wild, do something about it. And I don't think that would be a huge disaster.
Well, if I understand correctly, right now there's no buffered flag behavior and no performance timeline buffering. So I think this is a non-existent issue at this point in time. And it only becomes an issue if buffering is added or performance timeline exposure of long path occurs. Am I mistaken?
That does sound correct, yes. So maybe that implies not L1 blocker.
I think it implies not L1 blocker. It also kind of implies this is just a note with like a if future for L2.
Yep, that makes sense to me.
Okay. Does that seem fair, Will? I know you have some commentary.
I mean, but don't we have another issue that says we want to have buffering in the future?
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, it would be bad if we added this feature now, such that like we won't be able to resolve that in L2, right? I mean, and if we were to change the behavior of the RC in the future, in the case of buffered, then that could break by then sort of web compat required API.
Sure. So issue number 41 should ensure that it addresses 64, I think is what you're saying.
But I think Ryosuke is worried that if we fix issue 64 after shipping, this could potentially break some usage.
I don't like if there's no buff. Oh.
So for example, suppose my run analytics package, I've said like this URL is something I care about, and then we change the URL we're reporting, we could break some.
Yeah, and the alternative would be to have some inconsistency where data SRCs are being truncated in buffered mode, but not in non-buffered mode, which is weird.
I think that's confusing enough. We'd be likely to break exactly the same set of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would be very awkward API, right?
Yeah, I don't disagree. So, yeah, that's a good, future compat point.
Well, just as a data point, in the last reply that Nicholas had, specifically talking to the concern over memory and the long URLs, is so far it hasn't come up as an issue.
But he does note maybe it would become one if we support buffering long task entries in the future.
True.
Aren't URLs atomic strings? Like, don't we?
In Chrome's implementation, we won't have tons of copies of this memory laying around.
Yes, and same for WebKit, I believe, unless things changed.
I mean, concern here is that if you have a bunch of data URLs that are no longer used but are buffered in that.
Yeah, so that's the same concern for atomic and non-atomic. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So maybe it does make sense to consider this an L1 blocker.
Okay. And if I read between the lines of what people are saying, are people saying maybe we should consider having an arbitrary limit for data URIs, not just for long tasks, but also universally for performance timeline entries?
That's I didn't hear anyone say that, but it may make sense. But I think for resource timing, we don't keep around data URIs, for example. Which other entries can contain data URIs? That's the.
I haven't considered carefully.
But yeah, element timing probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree that the concern here is probably universal.
So maybe there's sort of a meta task here to reason through all of the places where this could be a problem.
Okay, I've added a quick note to the issue, and boy, made it L1 blocking.
Great.
Next issue. Sorry, I lost my.
By the way, to me, the biggest block of a long task right now is to clear up the cross origin issues. Right, like that is a pretty serious security issue. So we need to solve that, like, for sure, for any spec to come out of it.
That's the highest priority issue.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, that's good feedback. So it sounds like we should prioritize 66 and 67.
I agree.
61, container type is confusing.
Yeah, I think this should be L1 blocking. I think this one actually should be assigned to Nicholas.
Okay. Next one. Issue number 57. Reported entry type needs to be context aware.
I think like there's a chance that this is already fixed by the whole like a bunch of work that's been done on the performance timeline and the registry.
Yeah.
There's a good chance this is like either fixed or the fix is just a note.
Did we add the registry? I'm just checking the spec. Hold on a second.
Yeah, I don't remember the actual spec language here.
Can one of you pick the assignee to confirm that?
I think I don't want to volunteer Nicholas, but I think this one is actually in his court.
Yeah, that seems, we can assign him. I think that's fine.
All right. And this would be L1 blocking if it's not already resolved. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Names are inconsistent. Issue number 53.
So it's already resolved. By the way, the whole like registry piece.
The registry is live, but I don't think
No,
we've updated long
there's a
task.
note in section 4 processing model. A user agent implementing the long task API would need to include long tasks in supported entry types for window contacts. This allows developers to detect support for long tasks. That was like that. Before that, there was a registration step, and this note removed it. So it's like there's a note saying that it should be in window contacts. There's the registry that actually.
Is there a reason why we're keeping it as a note, which I'm reading as non-normative as opposed to?
Yeah, just to avoid confusion. That's what we decided last time we discussed this. So to avoid people implementing the spec without and forgetting the registry, we agreed to add a note.
No, sorry. I'm asking something else. I think the text makes sense. Just the fact that the text itself lives inside of a non-normative note.
Because the normative piece is the registry.
Okay, fair enough.
Sorry, I got lost in which issue are we talking about?
The previous issue that we said we should assign to Nicholas, but supported entry types need to be context aware. So I believe we can close this one.
Okay, yeah, that seems fine.
All right. So you're going to close it, you off?
Yeah, closing it.
Okay. So issue number 53, names are inconsistent. This is about same origin versus cross origin unreachable.
Yeah. I think it should be L1 blocking.
Okay. And then the question of ownership is best left till Nicholas is on the call.
I think that's reasonable. I'll ping him when he's back and have him go through the full list. But.
Okay.
All right, Tim, is this one related to 67?
I think so, yeah.
Multiple contexts. Should we just merge them? Or I guess we can keep both open, but they seem to be highlighting the same issue.
Yes.
Yeah,
I would have to.
Right, I think they are kind of in a similar arena. I think that's slightly different issue, but yeah.
That's fine. We can keep both.
Different aspect of the issue, but yeah.
I think what you're saying is we should just add a link from 67 to the previous issue. Consider solving this and 53 at the same time. So now whoever gets them assigned will know. Okay, so then issue number 52, the processing model only works for iframes, not object embed, etc.
Oh,
Hold on. I'm sorry. Just a second, if you don't mind. Can we go back to the resolution 53? I thought I heard that 53 was resolved, but that we were going to basically say it was a tangent or related to 67, which is not resolved.
53 is not resolved.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I heard that was. We must have been talking about something else, but I thought I heard that 53 was resolved. Sorry.
We linked it to 67 so that it was clear when anybody works on either one of them that they may be related.
I'm sorry, but when we were moving on from the previous one to 53, I thought I heard someone say, "Oh, don't worry about 53. It's already like resolved." So,
Oh, that's
Yeah,
not
that-
53. That's the previous one. That's the.
okay,
Yeah.
good. All right. Okay. Sorry.
No, great. So 52, which is processing model only works for iframes, not object embed, etc.
Yeah, I started working on this at the face-to-face and then never followed up on it, but I just took ownership and I'll try to get that landed at some point.
Okay, and we think this is L1?
Yes.
Okay. 52, and then we've got 42,
That is definitely not L1 blocking.
which is exposed sampled call stacks. I am going to move this out to L2 for now. And then issue number 41, which is should performance observer dot observe buffered equals true work for long tasks?
I don't think this needs to be L1 blocking.
Yeah, I think this depends on some research as to whether, like, on the costs of buffering long tasks, right?
Yep.
Okay, any pushback on moving that to L2?
I think it would be great to hear from Nick. So there's another issue, which is 26 right below it, which is performance timeline support, which basically highlights the exact same thing. So what Nick is after there is buffered. It would be great to, I don't think we have Nick on the call today, but maybe something we could revisit with him just to get feedback from folks that have actually deployed this.
Okay, so I'm going to say this is similar to 26. We've kept it in L1 for now. Let's discuss on next triage call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say
basically, yeah. Basically, Nick says that if it had buffering support for performance observer, that would be good.
Okay.
I think we can close one of these issues, so maybe resolve 26 and just concentrate on 41. And for what it's worth, as we're working towards level 1, assuming we close everything else, I think we should answer the question of should we have performance observer buffering, and then make a call at that point.
That's fair. So we're right at time. We currently have an unscheduled scheduled call 1 week from now for our next design call. Want to check quickly with people on the phone. Can 11 a.m. PST next week work for a design call, or do we need to push that back?
I won't be able to make it.
August 8th? Hello? Yeah?
Phil gave a thumbs up. Ryosuke, did you say yes?
Is it, you're talking about August 8th?
August 8th.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got a yes from you to Yoav and Ilya. You guys were yeses?
Yeah.
Okay, so Tim can't make it, but I think we have quorum and can move forward with that core browser crew, as well as the others. Yoav, can you, after being the slacker and not sending out the email, can you send an email on that design call?
Sure.
Thank
I
you.
can't make the 8th.
Because I'm saying I was the slacker.
Sorry, Ben, what were you saying?
Can't make the 8th. I gotta go though.
Okay. Thanks,
All
Mark.
right, thanks, folks.
See you
Cheers.
in a week.
Bye.
Facebook.
See ya.